What's up, guys? Good morning. I'm about to have the best day of my life because every day is the best day of my life. I just went and got some Starbucks. If you're curious, my drink order is not super low calorie, but I do account for it in my macros, meal plan, whatever. But I get either a grande or a venti oat milk latte, and I do half sugar-free vanilla syrup and then half I like toffee nut. So that's just my order, and it's probably like about 200 calories, I think, depending on what size I get, but that's just not something I'm willing to give up right now because my calories are still at like 1700, and so even with that, I will have almost 1500 calories, and I do pretty much straight lean protein and vegetables, and right now I'm just doing 125 grams of sweet potatoes a day and a serving and a half of cream of rice, and then all of the rest of my carbs are coming from fruits and veggies. So I'm pretty satiated given the circumstances. I am less than 4 weeks out from my first show. Not first show ever, but my first show of the lineup, and then I have one a week later, back to back, and then one 2 weeks after that. So super freaking excited. This weekend, though, today I'll be flying to Austin, Texas. I'm gonna be staying with my girl Jenna. She's been my client for going on 5 years, and then she's also been my employee for 1 year now. So we're super close. I'm gonna be staying with her for a couple days, and I also got my own Airbnb to have a little bit of space, because what I'm going to do is tomorrow is a guided breathwork session. Friday is a guided psilocybin trip healing experience. So if you're not familiar with that, it's basically magic mushrooms. If you're not really familiar with them, you can definitely go on Netflix, watch How to Change Your Mind. There's fantastic fungi. They're really, really close to getting a lot of therapeutic uses approved for the use of psilocybin, MDMA, and even some other plant medicine or even just human-made psychedelics. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, the purpose of it and everything, but it's definitely not with going the intention to party or escape or anything like that. It's the intention to heal, access a deeper part of myself, and just like a deeper consciousness. And then the third day is a guided DMT trip ceremony. So I'm super excited. So I'm gonna go hit my workout now. I'll film a little bit for you guys, and then we'll pick back up probably when I'm leaving for the airport. I usually do anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes in the sauna. Wouldn't recommend starting out with that much, but your body does adapt to cold, it adapts to heat, and yeah, you should look like this. I do abs in the sauna if no one's in here. Always stretch regardless of this. Oh my gosh. Regardless of who is in here. But that's enough. This is my bag lady. I pay her $20 an hour.
Is it 20?
Well, it's in San Diego. Minimum wage for a maximum loser. Emily's taking me to the airport right now. We're 5 minutes out. What do you think of this whole experience?
I'm beyond excited for you because I told you before, but Justin is one of my favorite souls that is on this planet. I would say human, but human's a little relative for me. I think it's going to be incredibly insightful, very healing, and expansive for you. So I'm excited to see what else comes with that.
I love that. Thanks. And yeah, Emily was the one that referred me to Justin. So definitely have a lot of trust there. He's good judgment of character. So don't let me down, Em.
I won't. Okay. You won't either.
Okay.
apartment in the middle outside their postal workers.
So me and Jenna are cooking our dinners. This is the prep life right here.
Hey, watch this. Can you take a picture of me?
I am. Whoa! It's definitely not the best weather, but if you have a kid and you say you can't train because you have a kid, oh man, just get them a scooter.
Yeah.
That's all you gotta do. Or a bicycle. I just got back. Day one was breathwork, so it was 90-minute breathwork session. Justin took me through, it's so weird saying the name Justin. Justin Lovato took me through 2 different types of breathwork practices. And I'm gonna show you guys because super interesting. Definitely wasn't what I expected, but it was really, really cool. And I can definitely see how doing this on a regular basis would be extremely beneficial for mental and physical health. This is Jenna's dog Tex. Tex, go over there. So, go get a toy. Go get your toy. Go get a toy. So the first breathwork that he had, I was sitting on a meditation pillow. My hands are like this. Might have to scoot a little bit. So the first one, I'm sitting crisscross applesauce, and I was sitting on a meditation pillow. And what he has you do is breathe in and then exhale, and you release everything. So I start kind of with my lower back, just release my lower back, and then you go back up. And you want to do a pretty deep breath and a pretty big release. So breathe in. And then you can also kind of like go in circles. You're just supposed to relax. So you do that 30 times. And then he has you hold your breath at the bottom. I believe this one, or maybe it was at the top. And you hold your breath for 30 seconds, and then you do 30 more. And then the next time you hold your breath for 60 seconds, and then 30 more, and then 90 seconds, so on and so forth. Then the second breath work was laying down, had a thing over my eyes. Actually, I have pictures. I had a thing over my eyes, and I'm laying down, and this one was a forceful breath. So the first one, I was breathing in through my nose, out through my mouth. It was like, this one was even more intense. Oh my God. So this one, keep in mind I'm laying down. I'm at Zilker Park. I just Ubered here from Justin's house. It's like 1 p.m. and I can say that this is the best day of my life. It's funny because I had the most ridiculous conversation with the Uber driver. It was like almost a 50-minute drive here. And I told him as soon as I got in the car, you just picked me up for the best day of my life. Or on the best day of my life. So I'll actually start back. I'm going to back up. So day one was transcendental breath work. So essentially you transcend beyond what's here, in the sense of like you become more consciously aware, basically like a deep meditative state. So they're 90-minute sessions. We're not doing the breathwork the entire time. I couldn't tell you how long the actual session was, if it was 45 minutes or 30 minutes or 90, 60 minutes, I don't know. You just kind of lose perception of time at that point. But I showed up to Justin's house. His name's Justin Lovato. Nirvana is his company. It's really, really awesome, everything it stands for. But I showed up there and talked a little bit, and then we did rape, which I've done rape plenty of times now. So it's essentially a tobacco. Here in the United States, we see tobacco as this, we think cigarettes and cigars, and there's a lot of poison in the way that we produce it and whatnot. But in other parts of the world, South America, for example, Brazil, Peru is a really big one. Tobacco is one of the most healing plant medicines there are when used properly and when made properly. So it's ground up into this fine powder dust, and then you sniff it, inhale it through this pipe called curipe. I actually have one with me. So you actually pull it out. Okay, so this is the rape, actually. This is mine. I brought it from home because I use it before meditating a couple times a week, but I use a very small amount. And then here's the curipe. So you put the powder in here, and then you put it, in this side, put it in your nose, and you go, and you blow it up. And the way your nostril doesn't go straight up. Your nostrils go back, but it feels like you're shooting it into your brain, and then your brain feels like your brain's on fire for a second. Tears start coming down your eyes, but if you breathe through it, that passes pretty soon. And then it's like this whole wave of calmness just comes over you. And the best way I can describe it is it almost immediately puts you into a meditative state. So we do that before the breath work, then we do the breath work, and it wasn't soft breathing like box breathing or any of those techniques. Like, it's powerful breathing. So it's like the whole time, basically the whole time. So we do that. Whenever you finish, you just feel so peaceful. And that was just the first day. So the first day was just breath work. Then I go back for day 2. Day 2 was mushrooms. So with the mushrooms, we started out with the breath work again. So we did the rape. So we did the rape, we did the 90-minute breathwork session, however long it was, and then I took 4 grams of mushrooms, and this stuff was very potent. If you're familiar with the different strains, it's the penis envy strain, and he only gets, of course, like the best plants. So I definitely went into my own little world after that. So he gives me headphones. They're the Apple AirPods Max, like the big Studio Max ones. So insane sound quality. And he put on a specific playlist that he had for shrooms. And I stayed in a room by myself for the first couple hours. There's just pillows on the ground and blankets, and it's a beautiful room. It's very clean. There's incense, and he had saged the place. There's these little drum things. There's some wall art, some trippy wall art. And my trip was very much directed with the music. So whenever it was a song where it was like there was a melody and maybe a girl humming or some singing, a little bit of words, I would feel more grounded. And then whenever I would hear the 432 hertz, more of the meditation, kind of the things that you would hear, the songs that you would hear when you're getting a massage kind of thing, that's whenever I would really start losing touch with reality. I would close my eyes and I was seeing the craziest things. Depending on the song, sometimes it was just shapes and patterns and really cool looking objects. And then there were some songs where it was like the closest thing that I can compare it to is like organs. Like organs and just like these pink, there's not even like, there's no pattern, there's no shape, just all kinds of squigglies, and they're almost coming at me and they're moving with the music. It was actually, that was the only part where I was like, ugh, it was kind of gross. So I changed the song after a while. After like 3 minutes, I was like, damn, this song's long. So I changed it. But I thought about a lot of things. And like I said, I don't know if I said it, but I went into yesterday with the intention of answers, getting answers to questions that I had, things that I should do, people that I should spend energy with or not. And I learned a lot yesterday. I learned a lot about myself and the world, but I also realized that I didn't need answers, that I just needed acceptance for what has been and what is now. So I felt a lot of love for myself. I felt acceptance for everything. And there was a lot of epiphanies that I made. I can't even compare it to today because today was absolutely life-changing. But yesterday I made a lot of epiphanies, and one, for example, was that we just need to play more. I feel like we have our dogs and our kids, and we have, friends and family, and I feel like we just go through life too seriously and just like work, grind, and it's like, what are we here for? Why are we here if it's not to play? So just play more. And it's things that, of course, like it's things that you know, but sometimes you just like really need to feel it to be like, okay, this is powerful. I feel something from this in order to actually take action, right? Here's probably one of the biggest epiphanies that I made though. So, I'm in the room for a couple hours and I'm thinking about like past relationships and different people and myself and the things that I've done and whatnot. And then after a couple hours, when I felt like I could probably have a conversation, and I was so hungry. So I opened the door. Justin's out there. He's like doing some kettlebell work or something. And I was like, I'm hungry. And he was like, do you want food? Did you bring food? Do you want some food? I was like, yeah. So I had my chicken and green beans, which is what I have today. And I had frozen it. And I was like, you know what? Cold food sounds good right now. I kind of just like want to eat cold food. He was like, do you want to sit outside and eat outside in the sun? It was a beautiful day like today. I was like, yeah. And I pulled it out. It was just mush, just straight mush. He's like, I'll heat that up for you. So he heats up the food and we're talking a little bit. And we just go and sit outside, big blanket outside, eating my chicken and green beans and kale with my hands just sitting crisscross. And I was like kind of telling him about some of the thoughts that I had. I wanted perspective and guidance, and I think one of the things that this epiphany that I was trying to get to right now, I was talking about romantic relationships and partners, and we were talking about connecting with someone on a soul level, on a spiritual level, on a deep level. And I was like, that's not the problem for me. Like, I feel like I can connect with another person and they feel safe with me, and we open up and we have this really deep bond, and like, it's never sex. Like, it's always like passionate love, and it's like, that's not the problem. Like, the problem is that I can connect with someone's soul, but you don't walk around like that. Like, we walk around with our egos. He just smiled at me and he was like, no, we don't. And it was just like, what? And I just made that realization that everyone has an ego, right? But does the ego run you, or are you aware of your ego all the time, constantly trying to bring it down? Or just be aware, just be conscious. And I was like, I can't ever be with another person that is not on the same path that I'm on, with me at the same time, if not ahead of me, and that there are people out there that they don't walk around with their egos. It's really, really hard to find. It's really hard to find, I think, a partner that I'm looking for where it's like the physical part, the life part, the human part, but then also someone who's healed, someone who's done the work, someone who reads and meditates and connects to their spiritual side and is walking the path that I'm walking on. And I'm like, I've known that. I've always known that. I literally have it tattooed on my arm that the path to true love is through enlightenment. I just needed that reminder, and I needed that experience. I needed to experience other humans. So Justin's friend was there also, and she's also a beautiful soul. But I was around him and I was around her because she joined us after a while. And I'm like, I need to be around people, and I need to be with people like this all the time. Not just sometimes, not on occasion, or whenever I fly across the state or fly across the country. But like, I need that in my life every day, and I need a partner that's like that every day, and I deserve that. So that was my shroom trip and the lessons I learned from it. DMT. All right, I'm gonna hit stop and record again for this DMT. Oh my god. Okay. So today was DMT. So I hit my workout this morning, get some activity in, chilled a little bit on the caffeine. I ate just a little bit of food, went over to Justin's and did a little microdose of shrooms, so like 0.3, a third of a gram. And then we did the rapé again, and then we did the transcendental breathwork again. And he was like, okay, it's time for the DMT. So the way that it's DMT, so DMT is a plant, by the way. Everything's plant medicine. So the rapé is just pure tobacco. Then there's the mushrooms, of course, and then now there's the DMT. So if you don't know what it is, you might have heard of ayahuasca. So ayahuasca is DMT combined with another plant that makes it last for a very long time. Whereas this was only maybe 10 minutes or so. I think maybe a little bit longer for me, at least, and for how much I smoked. So he uses this thing to basically light the plant, and it fills up this big sack of, it's like balloon sack almost. That's like very thin paper. He goes, okay, so you're gonna exhale, you're gonna inhale. He said, hold it, swallow 3 times, exhale, and then I did it a second time. And after the second hit, things start to get a little weird. It starts to fade. Things start to fade a little bit, and then I did one more hit. I put the eye mask on, I lay down, he puts the blanket on me, and I just remember myself smiling as I laid down. And you're not getting high. This is not at all what the experience was like. It's not like the giggles. It's not like, it's just so hard to describe. So I'm laying down, and as I start losing consciousness, I feel his hand on my heart. I think his other hand was on my belly, and he's just a little bit of pressure sending me love. I remember smiling, and then there's music playing. It was the most beautiful music, by the way. Couldn't have been a better playlist or better song choice. So within maybe 5 seconds, 10 seconds, I'm out. And this is how I describe it. I went to a different dimension, and I expected to have, with all the things that I've heard from other people, I expected to have almost like, you know, you're in space, you're in a different place, you're not on Earth. And so I imagine, you know, either like a white room or a black room, or like you're in space kind of thing. And it was not like that at all. It was not a picture. You can't paint a picture. It was just shapes. It was like shapes and geometry and like all of the colors at once. Almost like when you look through those glasses and like everything is kind of crazy, like that times a million in 3D. And you're, again, like you're not here. You're not in your body. Your body's here, and your soul is somewhere else. Your spirit. So it's all these different shapes, and there was definitely a woman present, and I interpreted her as God, and I think it was a woman because I'm a woman, and I didn't ask questions. I just heard answers. I just heard things from her, and it's her, me, because I am God. Everything is God. That's also why I believe it was a woman, is because I'm a woman. I don't believe in this like personified version of God that I think is taught to us, but it's more of like the universe, right? Like God is love, you are God, I am God, everything is, we are God. And that was something that I heard from her. And then I just heard it was gonna be okay, you're good, you are good. And that's what came to me. And it was the most mesmerizing thing to see and to feel, and it was just so much joy and love, and I started coming back to it. And I remember what brought me back to Earth, the first thing was smell. It was this overwhelming sense of it wasn't sage, it was something else that was burning. And at first it was overwhelming, and I panicked for a half a second, and then I was like, no, you are safe. There's oxygen. You're gonna be okay. You're not gonna die. Even if you did, it would be okay. Which was also mind-blowing to think. And then I felt sensations, and I felt myself breathing, and the music was so beautiful. And what I told Justin afterwards, because once I was done crying, I just had tears running down my face, and I was smiling while I was crying, but it was sadness and it was happiness and it was all of these different emotions. And then when I was able to sit up, I was like, hey, I would like to sit outside. He was like, okay. So you go outside, put the blanket out. It took a minute, several minutes, and then I started telling him about my experience. And I was like, that song couldn't have been a better song. And he was like, I literally found it yesterday, and I was so excited because it was perfect. It just, and maybe I can ask him what the song was. But I think it was like 2/3 major notes, like those happy pitches, and then maybe like 1/3 minor notes. And I went from this like overwhelming joy and love and acceptance and all of that, and I heard the minor notes from the song, and then it brought sadness, and then I felt pain, and it was just all of the pain that I had felt my entire life from others, but also the pain that I've caused others, the things that I've done to hurt others, and all of that came up. And yesterday I went in with the intention of forgiving myself and loving myself, and yesterday I learned a lot, but today was the day that I forgave myself. And I heard from her, I guess you could say, or I heard from God, it's okay. You needed this, like you needed all the pain. You needed to have all of those experiences. It was necessary. But you can let go now. And you can forgive now. And you don't have to keep replaying those movies in your head over and over, because it's not doing anything. And then she gave me permission to love, but not love and be good, because I'm trying to right all of the wrongs that I've done, and I'm trying to be such a good person because I've also been such a bad person. But just love to love. And I just heard, like, you were good. I heard you were good a lot, and it was just permission to feel free and permission to be myself. And then I heard you were powerful. You were a leader. You were powerful, and you were meant for so much more than what you're giving right now. You're meant for great things, and this is just the beginning. And that 10 to 15 minutes is the best experience I've ever had. After we sat outside for a while, go inside, we're talking, he makes me some coffee. It's like pour over coffee with some grass-fed butter. Drink the coffee, and after we talked and everything calmed down, I called an Uber to take me here. And something that is really interesting is not just this weekend. I started this a little bit before because I've been spending a lot of time with Emily Hayden, and Emily is just a fucking amazing person. She's so authentic, and like every conversation that we have is authentic, and it just reminded me just to be myself and to not filter myself because I expect people to judge me. And so I've been showing up conversations with people that I don't know, strangers or people that I barely know, like authentically myself. And every single person has responded beautifully. Like, so I get in the Uber, and it's this guy, he's from Uzbekistan. It's a super strong accent. I'll play the clip after this because I recorded it. It just made me giggle a lot. But we're talking about just random stuff, and I forget how he's talking about. Oh, he said he wants to buy acres. He's like, oh yeah, I want to buy 10 acres. I was like, oh, you gonna have a garden? He was like, oh, I already do. He's like, I grow mushrooms. I was like, oh. And this he's like 47. And like, he doesn't look like, hippie or like he's, woo-woo, spiritual, anything like that. It's just typical cab driver, right? At first glance, first judgment. So I go, oh, I was just kind of teasing him. I was like, oh, they're like mushrooms or like magic mushrooms? And he was like, oh, no. He's like, no, not magic mushrooms. He's like, I don't get high. Like, I don't eat those to get high, blah, blah, blah. And he's like talking about, how people eat them to get high. And I was like, I love them. And I just started laughing. And then he was like, like thrown back. Normally I wouldn't have said that. Normally I would have been like, oh yeah, like people crazy. But I was like, no, I'm gonna be myself. And it was actually like an hour trip because he took me from Justin's to CVS. I picked up like this blanket and some sunscreen and stuff, and then he took me all the way to Zilker Park, downtown Austin, from Round Rock, in traffic. So we're having this like long conversation, right? So I tell him, I was like, some people take them to get high, like to escape. It's almost like getting drunk. In a way you can. Like, but a lot of people take them to expand their mind. I was like, I actually took a very large, ate a lot of mushrooms yesterday, and I told him about my experience, like just like I just told you. And I told him about my experience, and I asked him, I was like, you know, like, I don't know if you're religious, but like, this is my view of God. And he actually had the same view. He was like, I don't believe like in the man that people talk about. He's like, I believe, he's like, everything is God. It's energy. And I was like, huh. And so we just had a great conversation. And then he's also talking about how he has a friend. He has a friend who knows, kind of like a shaman, I guess, but he does some like weird energy thing. Not weird, but he just does some crazy energy thing in a different country. I think he was saying Peru or something. And that people, their souls leave their body and they go and they meet God. And I was like, well, actually, he was like, well, why do mushrooms? If like, what did you see? He was kind of challenging me. He's like, well, what, you know, if you don't like see God or you don't like meet anything, then like, why do them? And I was like, well, all right, buddy, you're in for one. And then I was like, I met God today. And I told him about my DMT experience, and he was so receptive. Like, I went from, you know, it's almost like having a conversation with someone about politics. You're like, why even waste 2 seconds? There's no way they're gonna change their mind. You're just gonna argue. Like, don't even bring it up. It's just ego, right? But I approached the conversation with love, and that was the difference. It wasn't from an ego place. I wasn't correcting him. I wasn't challenging him in a negative way. I wasn't challenging any of his beliefs. I was simply speaking from my experiences and from my heart. And he could tell. He was like, my interpretation of his reaction to me was like, this is an intelligent person. It's not this girl trying to get high. She's very spiritual. She had these crazy experiences, and he was very interested. He was very, very receptive, and we just agreed on so many different things. And whenever I got out of the car, I was like, maybe someday you'll change your mind, you'll eat a bunch of mushrooms, and you'll meet God. And he just started cracking up laughing, and I was just like, have the most beautiful day. And then I came here, and then I told the story again for the third time, because I told Justin, then I told my Uber driver. Woo! Oh my God. Oh, I thought that was a bug. It was a plastic bag, okay. And then I told you guys, so I don't think it's for everyone, at least in whatever current stage of life they're in. I feel like there's a lot of work that needs to be done before doing a large dose of mushrooms and before doing DMT. There has to be a great deal of surrender. If you identify as a control freak, you control everything, you don't like being out of control, you're not ready. Like, you have to surrender. You have to just be okay with not knowing what's going to happen. And you have to be in the right environment with the right people, with good energy. And Justin was like he was a fucking angel brought to this earth to be able to hold space for people in that way. And I feel very blessed, very grateful, very lucky. Not lucky, just blessed and grateful. Maybe a little lucky. And I will never forget this weekend.
It's like blessing.
Yeah.
That's how he do. But
Wow.
you take the T or whatever.
The DMT,
But he just doing with the energy.
He does,
There's
yeah.
all energy. There's
yeah.
the physics around.
Yeah, so I think there's people that I think that energy can be created from a master.
Yes,
like the guy
master.
that he's a master.
Yes.
But then you can also get that from plants, from plant medicine. So I think there's different ways that you can experience that. But I went there
the guy
today.
was telling me I'm getting from that.
Yeah, I think the plants have sacred powers.
Plants have power for everybody.
Yes, they do.
Not only like for people who have that power, you know.
I think for everyone, yeah. I think, and that's why we need to be in nature more. So
This is natural.
that is nature, yeah.
This
The
is,
greens.
this is my basil seeds, turmeric, ginger, ashwagandha,
Ooh, oh wow.
mushroom, little
Those are all good.
mushroom.
Lion's mane.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good stuff.